Hello and welcome to the Story Engine podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have a David Gonzalez. David is the founder of the Internet Marketing Party and now the Experts Council. And we are going to learn about this unique formula of a mastermind think tank experience that brings together all of his brilliance in connecting people over the last 15 years that he has turned into an incredibly profitable career and build that into a story that he can use to share about his next venture. So without further ado, let's hand it over to David Gonzalez. David Gonzalez, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this since you first brought it up.
I have been really excited about this too. Working with world-class people who have great visions and ideas. You're somebody who I've seen at many different points in my career, in my work, and seen the people that you bring together and the things that you create. So it's a big honor to have you on the show today. But I imagine my audience doesn't quite know as much about you as I do. So could you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Sure. Well, my name is David Gonzalez. I'm most known, well, most 95% of the time when someone introduces me at an event, a gathering, conference, or whatever, it's as the serial super connector. They will also refer to me as either the mayor of Austin or the most connected man in digital marketing or entrepreneurship. I got that title. I didn't give it to myself. Just heard enough people said that it just stuck, and it's from hosting this thing called the Internet Marketing Party that I started 16 years ago. It'll be 17 years in September of 2025. So I've done that every single month without missing a single month, and I've hosted on my stage folks like Alex Hermosi, Jay Abraham, Craig Clemens, founder of Golden Hippo, billion-dollar company. Um, I mean, I could just keep going on and on. Ty Lopez, uh, had a bunch of names on my stage that have gone on to become big, multi-millionaires, and people who have gone on to even one has $1 billion valuation. Um, so it's been a wild ride, mostly because it's the only event that I know of where there's only one speaker and the speaker isn't the one hosting the event. Um, and it's also the longest running monthly event that I know of in our industry. And what makes it something is people have said, gosh, I can't even do something for an entire year. Like we're about to celebrate New Year's Eve, and people do their functions and stuff. And they're like, how have we done this for 16 years without missing a month? And the real kind of secret behind it is that 2 years into doing it, I was not able to attract the caliber of speakers that I was, just kept up leveling because I got all the big ones, the badass ones in Austin, and the way I could get people to come in from out of the this general area was to fly in and pay for their hotel and stuff. And at the time, I just couldn't justify it because I wasn't charging anything. It was just a passion project. And so me and a couple of friends came up with this idea to offer them a 3 hour hot seat that we started calling the think tank. And I had learned this framework whereby the first hour of the think tank, well, first of all, to be in the think tank, you had to be an expert at the problem that the person in the hot seat was trying to solve. So if the person was looking to build an email list and they only had like 50,000 subscribers, I would only invite people that had at least three or 400,000 subscribers. Or if somebody was a big affiliate using paid traffic, then they wanted to learn how to do organic, traffic. I would only invite people who drove at least $2 or $3 million worth of organic traffic. And so it was very meritocracy based. And it also made it to where the first hour you can not answer, and you can't just come in it as an expert and say, well, here's what I think you should do, Kyle. If you want to get a $10 million podcast, blah, 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 you got to spend the first hour. And I'm militant about this. We only ask qualifying questions for 14 years, every single month. I've had the pleasure, the privilege of hosting some of the biggest names in our industry who put themselves in a very vulnerable position of not being the guru, the big kahuna that knows all the answers, but instead coming in with a thorn in their side that and a limp and wondering, how do I fix this part of my business? And it's not uncommon for tears to flow. It's I've had people say that these think tank sessions are like ayahuasca meets Shark Tank without the drugs. And yeah, it's put me in a really privileged situation whereby I've gotten to every single month hear the frustrations, the fears, the woes of some of the biggest influencers in the entrepreneur digital marketing space and what's really going on behind the curtains. And sometimes it breaks down to like personal issues and daddy issues and partnership issues and political dynamics and all kinds of stuff that I've gotten privy to. And it's all closed doors and we don't record them. And so that's a lot. I didn't expect my answer to go so long, but I think based on my context clues about you, that you'd have the skill to shut me up if I was saying things that weren't valuable or
Well,
interesting.
um, what I would like to ask you next, and you have led me into a really interesting question to a hot seat experience I had recently. I traveled down to the JVology Summit, and there was a group of about 30 entrepreneurs there.
Hmm.
And it presented the hot seat presented this really interesting conundrum, which it sounds like this problem you've been able to solve, but I think this is a particular problem that doesn't get discussed or explored in hot seats very much. There's this seeming catch 22 of I want to get on this hot seat. And I do want to talk about my problems, but there's a lot of people that I respect and want to be seen as respectable. And I don't necessarily want to share in full vulnerability. And maybe if you have 3 hours, then you really can get down to it with people. And in my case, I just had 15 minutes. And so the choice to ask the best possible question, and there's a balance of how vulnerable can I be? Can I really share this? And if I share this, how will it impact, my relationship with some of these people? And I think, at least in my time, in some ways, and I came to the conclusion that many people would opt to have a mastermind experience or a hot seat experience and share a question that feels like a problem, but allows them to play it a bit safe, but still have the conversations. But with a deeper level of safety and maybe clarity and probably time with these longer sessions, you're able to get down to the deeper issues and create vulnerability, which is kind of sounds like what you're alluding to with ayahuasca. And
By the
uh,
way, just to be, because a couple of times I've said that and people thought that I literally like were serving ayahuasca, because in this day and age that wouldn't be that weird anymore. But no, there's no drugs associated. Like it's that depth of experience. I've had people
yeah,
literally decide to sell their business, fire a spouse, um, step down as CEO, acquire a new business, do a partnership with people in the room, like big things. And we're talking about like multi-million dollar businesses, not like a little, $300,000 a year startup or something.
totally.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that what I just experienced, though I'm a little baby business, would still apply to the intensity of a hot seat situation like that. And I'm curious how you create the safety needed for somebody to be as honest as they could be
Yeah.
and get the quality of life changing responses that you're
That's
talking about.
Thank you. It's a really great question. First of all, because I've been doing them for 14 years, and it used to be that the only way you could get one was to be a speaker at Internet Marketing Party. And because when we first started doing this, like literally when we started doing these, Facebook and YouTube did not exist. And to be a big name in internet marketing was a really big deal. Like you knew stuff that not even the CMO at Microsoft knew. Like We were doing direct response meets digital marketing. So we had the ability to like target individuals like directly using Google. You know, I mean, like, because everybody was on Google, and there was all kinds of other stuff you could do with the internet. Because by that point, everybody was on the internet, but nobody knew how to use it as a marketing tool yet. So the people that did know how to do it were really like wizards, and they were underground. And if you and I got to know who the real ones were because of how I got into this business. And so it was the case that I was able to get people that were running 20, 30, $50 million businesses to come help other people that were running really successful businesses. And it got this, so being invited to a think tank, and I specifically call it a think tank, even though that phrasing is used in other ways. When I use the word for think tank, it's a specific jargon that's different from a hot seat, because a hot seat implies that whoever's in the room, like, so if the person that's wanting that gets a hot seat is looking for people that they're spending $1 million a month on paid traffic, and no one in the room is spending any money on paid traffic, well, that's a bullshit hot seat. That's a waste of time, in my opinion. And that's what a lot of hot seats are. So the second thing is, this is a 3 hour session whereby there's a lot of structure to it. And part of that structure is people were literally fly in internationally to sit in as experts around the hot seat. And I specifically keep it to a maximum of 12 people in the room. Once you get to more than 12 people, like, there's a method to them. This isn't just random. And the people that get flown in, or I mean, like, that fly in, there's a structure to how I invite people, according to, once I know somebody knows somebody else is going to be there, then they'll come, and then I can leverage those two names to get a third person to come. So there's a lot of structure to who is in the room, to where usually there's a moment for the first 5 minutes. I have everybody go around the room and say their name and why they earned the right to be in that room. And I literally say it like that, like, because, like, it's you don't just find some rando that's sitting there going like, "Hi, I'm Joe, and I'm new to internet marketing." It's like, but I paid a lot of money to be here. No,
Hmm.
it's like, you can't pay to get in that room as an expert. You can only be invited. And so there's a lot of meritocracy there, and usually jaws drop when they go, "Holy shit, you're the guy that runs traffic at Golden Hippo? Like, you guys are doing like $4 or $5 million a day in paid traffic? Like, crap, like, whoa." And then the other person's like, "Yeah, but we are the ones that trained that guy." And like, it's like, just becomes this. And so there's a reputation. And so once, like, last year, we had Ian Naj fly in from Sweden just for to come and serve as an expert as a think tank. He said it was the best thing he did all year. And so I whenever somebody says like, "Are you paying for my flight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know if this is for you," because the people that come to these service experts, they're the kind of people that have learned that the more you give, the more you get. And so I have the ability to have these brass balls of inviting people, that people would normally think, "Well, I can't invite that person to come and not pay them and not pay for their flight and not pay for their hotel." But I do it because I've had so many people hug me afterwards going, "Oh my God, David, this was better as an expert sitting in this room. I got more value than the person in the think tank seat." We call them navigators. And I've
Yeah.
also had people tell me that they got more value as an expert than they got from masterminds that they paid $30,000 to $40,000 to be part of, because they've never been in a room where they're only with people at or above their level at their specific expertise area, that are competing to help another person.
Yeah.
It's a really, really unique situation.
So there's a thread here, and you've been curating these incredible rooms and experiences, and you have a long history of doing this with the Internet Marketing Party and with these think tanks. And a lot of these started out as passion projects. And the way that you just described this, you have a certain passion for connection,
Yeah.
of meeting the right people and leveraging that. and I'm just curious about that through line. And then I would love to bring it around. I think the think tanks isn't ultimately what we want to talk about today, but
Right.
tell me how this passion is going into experts council and what's different
Sure.
about this project
Yeah.
compared to what's brought you here.
So, I mean, if you really want to go deep, I mean, I think it stems from because within the last 6 to 10 years, I am always doing deep personal development work and different, workshops and trainings and journeys and all kinds of stuff. And at some point within the last 5 to 10 years, I woke up to the fact that I became a connector from for biological reasons. And why I say that is, uh, I I grew up along the in South Texas along the Mexican border down near where Elon Musk is launching rockets, and I was always the smallest boy in school, like not one of, literally the smallest boy. Like there was nobody shorter than me, and many times the girls were bigger than me too, and it didn't really matter that much until we hit puberty. But once we hit puberty, I found that I really, really liked the really pretty girls. And I noticed that they would just literally look past me. They would look over me at the bigger, taller, stronger, faster boys. And I realized at a young age that the only way that I could have a chance at being in the community, in the little circles with the pretty girls, was to uh, was to be valuable as a as like somebody that made people laugh, somebody that brought charm, somebody that was like always looking to make the room better. And what I've noticed is that I don't really care as much about connecting people as much as I do creating spaces where everybody in the container feels like they could genuinely argue that they're the luckiest one in the container. And when I know that I've created that, when I can feel like, no, I'm the luckiest one because I brought these two people together, and them making an extra $20 million this year is going to equal me making another $200,000 this year. I'm the luckiest one because all I had to do was put these dudes in the room, and they're like, "Holy shit, you just netted us an extra 20 million this year, or an extra, whatever." And all you did was bring us to this nice dinner, and like, both of them are feeling like they're the luckiest ones. So to me, it's not about the connection as much as it is about like creating containers where people feel like, dude, how do you do this? And I'm like, no, 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 thanks for coming. And they're like, no, 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 invite me anytime. And I'm like, no, no, no. There's gonna be one time that you're gonna say you can't come because then I'm gonna need you to remember this. And like it's kind of like I'm always trying to one up myself.
So I'm
Does that
curious.
make sense?
It does make sense, but there's something that I want to clarify that we discussed a little bit before we came on the recording. That's really key to this one for me. Now, a lot of your work in the past has been a result of, you mentioned, being a connector biologically, like that's how you created value, and like many of us, we develop these skills based on some kind of crossed wires we have, and that was a perfect textbook like example of one of these things that happen. And you mentioned that there's some sort of a personal transformation, and you've been going through this, and there's a way that instead of just being a connector or kind of leveraging the bravado of others, this is a chance for you to shine and showcase yourself in a way that you haven't done before. Can
Hmm.
you tell me a little bit more about this?
Yeah. So, like I think I may have mentioned that I've been hosting Internet Marketing Party for 16 years in a row. Last September was our 15th anniversary, and I did something I'd never done before, which is I invited all the past speakers that I've ever had on stage, and they started saying yes, yeah, oh my God, that sounds great, that sounds fun. 15 years, blah blah blah. And so before I knew it, the RSVP list was almost 6 or 700, and by the time the people that actually show up, we knew it would be about 500 people. And my coach, who had had a 5-time founder, the $600 million exit, and just a real rock star at running businesses and coaching people, he says to me, "Hey, David, I have a challenge for you." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I want you to make a list of 25 people that if they were to pay you, $10,000, $20,000 for a weekend for you and nine other entrepreneurs, you'd rent a big mansion or something. Just who are the 25 people that, at this event are the most likely to say yes to that?" And I made a list and I asked them, and I went to him about how, after I'd asked six people, and I said, "Joe, dude, everybody's saying yes. Like, I asked six people and all of them are saying yes. They want to know where to pay." And he said, "Well, where are you sending them?" And I said, "Well, I set up a credit card thing yet." He said, "Well, they're not really yeses until they actually pay, but what are you going to do with them?" And I said, "What are we going to do with them?" And he's like, "No, no, no. What are you going to do with them?" Like, "I'm going to be in Hawaii." And I was like, "Huh?" And he said, "Yeah, man. The real coaching I had for you is you think you need a partner, and you don't. It's time for you to do this on your own." And he kind of tricked me benevolently into, like, I got all these people to say yes, that they wanted to come go deeper and spend a lot of money for just hanging out at a mansion. And so I decided I would start hosting think tanks for them. And that's how 3 Day Think Tank was born. And by the end of it, it was so, like, my heart was so filled up that, unlike anything that I'd ever poured myself into, I've been involved in a lot of product launches for people, for clients, and planned big birthdays, 18th birthday for my daughter, and big anniversary parties and stuff. And usually whenever I pour all myself into something for more than a month to 3 months, the
Mhm.
morning after the actual event, like, there's this feeling of, like emotional hangover and like a big gaping hole in my beingness. And the morning after that first 3 day think tank, I woke up feeling like I was on fire. I felt like, I even feel a little emotional, like, remembering it right now. I felt like my heart was just full. Like, I felt like just like everything was right in the world. And I remember calling Joe, my coach, and saying, "What's this? Is weird." And he says, "David, this is an indicator that you're on the right path, that you're doing your life's work." And what I now know, that it's been over a year and it's launched another business, which is my mastermind called Experts Council, is that that wasn't the actual right path. It was that the path was that I was now doing my own thing instead of representing people who were doing their own thing, people who were in the arena putting points on the board. Like, I was hiding behind their marketing, their sales, their teams, their brilliance, their genius shined light on them, and I was leveraging that and creating for myself a really nice lifestyle, a really nice, like, network, and life was good. But it reminds me of that scene in The Social Network when just Mark Zuckerberg got offered $150 million for Facebook, and Sean Parker looks at him and he goes, "150 million is cool, but you know what's really cool? $1 billion." And what I feel now is that the work that I'm doing in the world, I'm really putting myself out there, and I'm risking, and I'm in the arena, and I'm putting points on the board, and I'm losing. I am put over $64,000 towards this startup this past year and pretty much flushed it down the toilet. And all I have for it is learning how not to spend my money. And
Okay.
rough.
Some important things that I'm just hearing, and what I want to clarify. What you're implying based on the story that you're telling me and what people are coming here for. Tell me if this is true. But your ideal clients for this probably also have felt unseen, and their life is good, but they always feel like there's more. There's always another billion. There's always more milestones. Always more. Always more. And they're probably playing it safe. Instead of really being seen, instead of really being risked, they have some way or another, personally or otherwise, that they're playing it safe, but they can't see it because they're also really successful. They've got a lot of great things going on, and
Hmm.
they probably compensate for it really well. And that's why they need to be seen. They need to feel safe to be seen, and they need to also have the safety cultivated so that they can solve this problem? Does this reflect who you are trying to attract?
You know, I don't I can't speak into it directly because like I would need to talk to some of the folks that I do know that some of the best think tanks have been ones where people have huge blind spots. And what I will say is that I think what one of the reasons people do feel safe is because of what I said earlier, which is I only curate people who are experts at that thing.
Yeah.
And they already know that I'm only, and it's a closed door thing. Like we don't record these and make content out of it. And um, up until we started doing 3 day think tank, people started saying, "Yeah, all the people here are cool. I'll let them sit in and watch my think tank." But it's we're talking about like 20 to 30 people, like at the whole event, because this isn't like a 300, 400 person a weekend. We're in an 18,000 square foot 10 bedroom mansion with pickleball courts and a helipad and multiple game rooms. You know, it's a fun, cool, very luxurious, exotic place, and it sets that we get a private chef that comes in, and so it sets the tone for people to feel like, oh yeah, like everybody here is cool, and like
Let me suggest a couple of other ones then. Um, it sounds like the problem is I go to a lot of events, but it's just kind of networking and it's kind of a slot machine at who I meet and who I get in touch with. And there's at best, there's a bunch of people with solutions that don't understand the problems that I have at all. And I wanted a space where I couldn't like speak and share and connect in the way that I wanted to. And that's what I wanted to set out, a space of safety that was curated, that was, it was safe on arrival, that I knew I could think about this and look forward to it because I knew that the best people were going to be there and working to serve and creating an environment.
yep.
So, mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's real close to the mark. I had Russell Brunson's behind the scenes funnel builder, Steve Larson, help me create an offer hook for Experts Council, and it's essentially the person who walks out of a session in a typical mastermind again because the person sharing stuff on the stage is sharing stuff that you already know more about than they do, like clearly, again. And so as you step out into the hallway, pretty quickly somebody comes up and says, "Oh, can I get a selfie with you?"
Hmm.
And pretty soon you're coming up to realize, like, shit, how do I tell this person no, I don't want to share my cell phone number with them? Because like there's four people behind them that also want your cell phone number. And one of them says, "Hey, are you gonna re-up for the mastermind? Because if you don't, I'm not either." And like they're like, "Holy shit, how did I become the product here?" And then you realize like, oh, that's why the mastermind founder gave me a break, because like I'm the product. Whoa. And so the people that I'm attracting to expert council are people that are running 50, 70, $100 million companies, and they're used to being the product, but they're like realizing like, when do I get my questions answered? When do I get my expertise? If steel sharpens steel, when do I get sharpened? Instead of always being, sure, it's fun for the ego to like look cool and have people want to take selfies with you, but at some point, they go off to their room, sneak off, and give into temptation to book a flight home early and make an excuse that there was like a fire back at the office they needed to put out, because once again the mastermind was like not a good use of their time. But it's lonely. So they chose between being lonely or being in this mastermind that they're like the product that they paid for. And it's just not a good use for their time. So what Experts Council is a place for people that have become extraordinarily brilliant and famous for what they do because they're so good at it, and they're surrounded by other people at that caliber. So I don't know if that answers your question, like if that aligns with what you're saying, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm finding. That's who I'm finding is, and so they're, because I've asked a couple of them. I mean, I asked Eddie Malouf, and I asked Matt Gallant, both running 70 to $100 million companies, and then Keala has done over 100 million. I was like, why are you joining this? Because there's a lot of masterminds, and they're like, David, I've seen the people you put in the rooms, and they're not the typical people that are just going and like you like everybody's just putting people on a stage to talk about shit that like at the end there's a pitch and they're trying to upsell you into the next thing, and it's like yours looks like a place where it's like, oh, I can go and just like actually learn stuff and have my stuff addressed by people who've actually done what I'm wanting, and not who are trying to pitch me on their
Yeah.
agency service.
Nice. Tell me one thing that you did on the morning after the 3-day think tank.
The first one, because I've now done three.
The morning that you mentioned you were just, your heart was so full.
Well, that's how it's felt after every time. So
All right, the first one then.
what's one thing I did? I went down to Kuya, which is the local wellness center, and I got a sauna and a IV drip, and got myself a big giant. There's this local fresh squeezed juice place called Raw Republic, and they make this just absolute elixir, like just nectar of the gods. All it is coconut, raw coconut juice, or water with this blue and coconut milk and this blue algae, like I guess blue magic algae that they mix it in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It creates this cool thing, and you mix it up. And I had one of those, and yeah, just walked home, even though it was like a mile and a half walk.
Perfect.
I would normally, because I took an Uber there.
All right, that's good. Are you ready to hear your story?
Yeah.
I'm standing on stage as my uh, coaches and mentors and people all around me have been gathered for uh, the 15th Internet Marketing Party. And I'm being celebrated for connecting so many people over the years. And this event that was once a labor of love has become one of the most influential things in all of the entrepreneurship and the online space. And it's amazing what I've created. And all along the way, I've been helping connecting other people here and there, making sure that everyone else was taken care of. But often in times and events when I went to go and um, excuse me, ask my own questions, I found that I was in rooms where I was the product and not the person in there. I was a member of a mastermind that somebody just had in there to tack my name onto it, but not be there to serve me, or be in a room full of people that were less experienced than I was at the things I had done, and then give me half thought out advice about what I should be doing next. And each time, as my reputation grew and grew and grew, I felt less and less able to talk about my real problems and how I felt and what was really going on. And it was so ironic that as I was connecting more and more people and building up more and more recognition and having more eyes on me, that I felt more and more hidden in the process. And I was thinking from that stage that I wanted something different. I wanted something better. I wanted something that was more aligned with me. And I started talking to uh, my coach about this. And he suggested, think of a list of 20 people that you could put into a room that you could make a huge impact for. And I started listing and thinking about them and started making offers excitedly right away. And before I realized that, I had a few people on board, ready to go. And I told him, I'm like, this had all happened. What are we going to do? And he says, we are not going to do anything. It's time for you to really take the lead here. And so for the first time in my long and successful career, I went to stand out into the spotlight to make the invitations to stand behind my creation. And I wanted something that was not typical. I wanted to create a place where people came to get problems solved, not just networking or hot seats, but to go deeper than they have ever gone before in a room filled with everyone that's earned the right to be there, to provide real solutions that are transformative. And I wanted to be able to open up the world, not just for tactical business ideas, but to really be open enough to do the deep work and the personal things that often mask behind business problems and situations. And so I started making invitations and curating these rooms, which I began to call experts' councils. And I started to leverage my own skills and my own talents of connecting people to create these experiences where everybody felt like the luckiest person in the room. The person that came and got spoken into by all of these different experts had their minds blown. The experts who were competing with each other to provide good advice ended up learning more from each other often than the person who came to be on the hot seat. And of course, I remember waking up the next morning after the first one of these, thinking that I was the luckiest person in the world. Finally being able to shine and showcase who I was and what I loved doing, which was connecting the best people in the world and creating real solutions to problems. And it was on that morning drinking this cool blue spirulina elixir, thinking about the possibilities of the many, many years of experience of the hundreds of people that I had helped and led along the way, and what was possible now when I could get people into one of these rooms together. And in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to tell you how my process can create solutions like nothing else in your life. There you go.
Dang, that's amazing. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for providing and leading by example of providing the trust and being open to explore this process and sharing all kinds of different things about yourself and being honest and allowing yourself to be showcased today too.
Very cool.
Yeah. Are there any places that you could imagine speaking this or sharing this story anytime soon?
I mean, I could share it at internet marketing party, my own event, because I always just feature other people. Um, Aside from that, I've been busy either putting other people on stages or, um, you know, lately it's been busy building my own thing. So I haven't really, I kind of feel like I'm in a situation where I'm more interested in building than I am in showcasing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, like there's the phrase that comes to mind is "be so good they can't ignore you," and
Yeah.
I've never had that before. I've always looked for the people that are so good couldn't be ignored. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, um, yeah, it feels good to be in this spot of of um, having other people talk about me more than me talk about me. And that's not to say that
Absolutely.
I'm not willing to or don't want to. It's more um, the one of the things that pouring my heart and my soul into excellence has taught me is how precious time is,
Mm-hmm.
how um, how few hours there are in the day to do all the things that I want to do. So when I think about pouring more time and attention into making building what I have in mind, um, it feels more important than uh, than going out. Like it's like I'm painting the Mona Lisa, and
Yeah.
it's not ready to be. I'm not ready to be like, hey, I'm painting the Mona Lisa. It's more like I want to keep painting. Does
Awesome.
that make sense?
Well, It does make sense. And that's so we came and we created the story and we did make an impact. And I hope you see the possibility in that. And do you have any closing thoughts for us today? And where could we go to learn more about you and connect with you?
Sure. Closing thoughts are, man, if you know, it's the end of the year right now, and I've been thinking about what's one word or phrase that would represent last year, and a word or phrase that will represent this coming year. And this past year, a phrase is that I'm learning how to refine my vision into reality and make the journey the destination. That's my experience is now. And for my word for 2025, or my phrase for 2025, is self compassion and kindness, because I've been making my vision and my ideals more important than myself. And 2025 is when I get to make myself more important than these visions and ideals. And I think that counterintuitively will make my visions and my ideals more real. So that's what I'd like to leave everybody with.
That's profound and deserves a whole nother podcast, but we don't have time for that today. Um, where can we go to learn more about you and
Oh yeah,
connect with
yeah.
you?
You know, I don't like in lieu in I suck at self promotion at this point in my career. So my I guess you could go to internetmarketingparty.com, but that's really kind of like not super representative of what I'm really doing. You can go to expertscouncilmastermind.com
Perfect.
or 3day thinktank.com.
You got it. Well,
Yeah,
David Gonzalez.
I'm still like in the process of like shifting to like, here's my stuff, guys. Like, I'm used to talking about a client launch or a partner program or something, and it's mine now.
Well, good. Well, this was a step in the right direction. So thank you so much for joining us today on the Story Engine podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kyle.